when I'm gone, can't be found. Wish you were here now. But tell me where.
Speaking with Takis, as you can see on my little scroll on the bottom here, and Takis has got a new song, "Wait for Me," and it is fantastic. We spin it all the time here, and so what is like? How did you find these other two, Goody Grace, Tori Law? How did you get connected with them?
So yeah, this is a really cool moment. Anytime you have the opportunity to have a record that's actually working, it's a special time. You know, you put out a lot of songs, you never know how they're gonna go, and then one day, you know, you jump into an Uber and you hear the song, or you're at the gym and you hear it, and it feels special because you can't predict these things. It doesn't
No.
matter what infrastructure you think you have or what your label tells you. You can't predict what song is gonna properly hit. So most importantly, Goody Grace is actually a fellow Manitoban kid. He was born in Selkirk,
Oh,
and him
cool.
and I used to write songs. We're 16, 17 years old, writing songs that are absolutely terrible that we scrubbed from the internet, thankfully. And thankfully, his career really took off. He had a really big record with Blink 182, and he had a really cool moment. And a couple years later, I gave him a call. I said, "Hey, I have an idea for a song. I have a concept. Let's try to vibe out." And the record came together pretty effortlessly. But it's very special when two hometown friends from literally what 8, 9 years ago, we were
Yeah.
making terrible songs, and for us to both come back together at the peak of our careers, both with label situations, both with our own fan bases. It's a special moment. But yeah, me and Good Grace were friends for life, and it's very cool that now we have a record that actually kind of matters nationally.
And yeah, I gotta find those songs. They're like
Yeah,
they got to be on the internet somewhere.
there's a couple lingering around. I
Uh,
tried to get most of them down, but
we'll find them. We'll find
yeah, they're
them.
rough.
That's awesome. So you've been creating music probably for a long time then. Like I know, like I remember you were in the DJ game. Like I'm from Winnipeg too, and I remember you were DJing for like the radio station and at clubs and stuff like early. Like you were like 18, I think, like right away.
Yeah, I started as an intern at a
Yeah,
hip hop radio station when I was like 16, 17. So I
yeah.
would like go to school, and then I would borrow my mom's blue Pontiac that had like one hubcap, and I would just like hope I got to the station after school. And it was fun. I learned a lot about radio, and I enjoyed it. And eventually they let me, you know, get a couple co-hosting shows and maybe do some DJ mixes on the weekend or overnight.
Yeah.
But there was definitely a pivotal moment where I learned enough about it where I said, you know, I want to have my own songs. I
Hmm.
want to play my own shows. And by 18, I was DJing wherever they would let me play, and I would do it for free or for a drink ticket, whatever it was. And I was trying to make songs, trying to make beats, trying to figure it out. And thankfully, I don't know, 18, 19, 20, there was zero results, zero results, zero results. By like 21, things started to click, and I've been, I guess, kind of a full time artist since then. But
Yeah.
it was a tough first few years, but that's how it is for anyone coming up, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you rarely hear the stories that are just like, "Oh, my very first song was a hit." So I don't know, like it just natural. Yeah, no, you got to go through the motions, and I definitely was there, like listening to you, and some of those DJ nights, I was right there listening. So, and you did good. So, obviously, the practice paid off. So,
Yeah, those moments, I talk about it a lot. There's a lot of, especially in like dance music, there are a lot of artists that they start off as producers, they have a hit song, and then they're doing main stage at a festival. Then
mhm.
they get their Vegas residency. So it always started for, especially in my genre, you get your hit song, you're a producer, then you figure out the DJing after.
Yeah,
For me, I was a DJ. It was DJ first. I was trying to get the respect of the guys that were 10, 20 years older than me in the scene in Winnipeg.
yeah.
These older DJs, I was trying to get their respect. I was trying to be on actual turntables. I was really a DJ first, then figured out production, then figured out how to have successful records. So my trajectory was definitely different than a lot of artists in my genre. But man, those nights when you're playing in front of 20, 30 people, it's humbling, but you also learn how to read a room. When there's 30 people, you got to pick it out. So eventually when there's 4,000 or 5,000, those moments kick in, and it's muscle memory.
That's gonna be a lot of fun playing for that many people. And yeah, we had some good DJs in Winnipeg, like some world class ones that I remember. Like if you wanted to learn spinning, like you had the coach there. He was
Yeah.
amazing to learn from, and yeah, some good guys in Winnipeg. So definitely not a bad place to start when it comes to I've always loved electronic music, like ever since it was unpopular. That's a weird thing to even say. Like it was back in the day when it was like on Dance Mix 98. It was on there, and yeah, like it's cool. You hear about the stories, and that's the story a lot of the time is, you work, you grind, you create songs that no one hears, that no one wants to hear, and then eventually you got the one like this one that everyone wants to hear.
Yeah.
Wait for me, everyone. We play it like 5 times a day. It's awesome.
Appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, I started as a hip hop DJ. I was a kid from Transcona specifically, and
Yeah.
go to a hip hop radio station. I was mentored by hip hop DJs. I didn't really understand dance music, electronic music. It wasn't my thing growing up in high school. I didn't really have that. Certainly wasn't played in my high school. And
Yeah.
I went to a music festival probably at 18. I got brought there and invited by a girl, so I ended up showing
You
up
gotta
and
go.
I watched it, and I was like, wow, this is the energy here is different. The tempo of these records, there's a different vibe that I've never experienced before at a hip hop show, and I've done so many of those. And at that moment, I was like, I want to be a part of this in some way. And it took a couple of years, but now I feel very a part of that scene.
Oh, and it's a great scene to be part of for sure. That's gonna,
So
yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun for you. So when it comes to music and stuff, like, who are your biggest influences? Like, would you say you learn from the most, or maybe listen to the most?
I mean, growing up, it was like Kid Cudi was like my
Oh yeah.
favorite. High school, like I was just that nerd in my headphones, just listening to every Kid Cudi mixtape coming up. That was probably my first like time I fell in love with an artist, where I was like,
Hmm.
wow, this is it. And then obviously guys like Kanye West, from just a production
Oh
standpoint, is
yeah,
just genius and
for
greatness
sure.
in so many ways. So that was the influence. The freshness and the honesty of Kid Cudi and Kanye as a kid, it's still to this day. It's like I'll go back to these 10-year-old mixtapes and 10-year-old albums, but absolutely those two were everything to me as a kid. It was very bizarre how much I like those records.
Oh well, you're not alone, definitely. Like early Kanye West was just like mind blowing. It was
Mind
insane.
blowing.
Yeah, and so when it comes to artists you'd want to work with, now that you're in the genre, like, is there like, oh man, I need to work with like Zed or whoever? Is there anyone that comes to mind?
I mean, I respect all those guys so much, and now I have a couple of their email addresses. I have a couple of WhatsApps where
Oh,
I'll send some demos,
that's
which is really
awesome.
cool, and getting advice from guys like that. I don't know if I have a list. I just want it to be organic. A lot of my best songs and best moments have been if we're backstage at a festival, or if I have an idea
Ah,
that I feel like they might like. The idea of forcing it, I don't know if it works anymore. Back in the day, I think like maybe a manager or a label could push it, but nowadays there's so much young talent.
yeah,
There's so many up and coming guys. It's so oversaturated where you just got to get a vibe, and if the right vibe is right and they hear it at the right time and the email sent in the right way, those moments happen. So I don't know if I have a bucket list. Of course, there's like the legends, like you want to produce a record for Drake or like Kanye. Those are obvious,
yeah,
boring
yeah.
answers. But in terms of DJs, man, I respect all these guys. It just has to happen in an organic way where it's the vibes right.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, this guy's invading a little bit.
Oh, you're good.
But yeah, for me, like if I were in the genre, like I'd love to work with like Tiesto. I've listened to
Like,
Tiesto for years and years, like 20 years almost, which is kind of weird to say, but yeah, that would be one I'd love.
I, yeah, I've met him a few times.
You've
One of
met
the
him a
one of
few
the
times,
coolest
yeah.
people.
Oh,
Coolest people. I remember one memory I have that stuck with me a lot. It was when I was coming up. I would like email maybe even local DJs or producers. I'm like, hey, I have this idea for a song. I want to get your feedback, and like they would take forever to reply.
hmm.
Sometimes they would never reply, and I would sit there and be like, damn, that sucks. I remember I kind of got in the game, and Tiesto, I got his email and I sent him a record. I'll never forget. He like replied in like 7 minutes with this
Wow.
like feedback of like change this. I didn't love that. I do like this. This is really cool. And I just at that moment, for me specifically, and now with whatever public emails that people have of me, I try to reply to every demo. I try to reply to every idea some kid sends me. It doesn't matter how good or bad it is. But that was like this huge lesson for me at 21, 22. I was like, damn, all my friends wouldn't reply to my stuff coming up, but like one of the goats would with the
Yeah.
detailed feedback. So even if I hear someone's demo, they send me an email or a DM. I'll listen. Even if I don't love it, I'll try to give the best feedback that I can. And if I do love it, I'll try to give encouragement. That was a huge lesson because you never know how much that 2-minute email is going to matter to some kid because they mattered
Oh.
so much to me. So that shout out to Tiesto, man, legend, one of the nicest guys in the biz.
Right? Oh, I know. So awesome. I've seen him a couple times in person. Never met him though. That's awesome. That's like, yeah, he seems like like you said, goat, and I agree with you for sure.
Tell me away from me.
So yeah, we're both from Winnipeg, so I thought I'd ask you a Winnipeg centric question. Is there anything that you feel is like ingrained in you from Winnipeg? Like, do you have an unnatural love for Slurpees, or are you extra frugal, or anything that's like Winnipeg centric?
I would say, Slurpee thing is very strange. I've never got into Slurpees, which is
No?
probably very bizarre for a Winnipeg kid because that was a big part of the culture.
Yeah.
I think for me, Winnipeg taught me a lot of tough love that you have to really prove yourself before they embrace you. I remember growing up and I would hear in interviews from like really big artists where they would say you have to be successful outside of your hometown before they embrace you or believe in what you're doing. And I remember coming up musically being like, I feel like my city doesn't like understand what I'm trying to do. I don't know if they like believe in my songs. And eventually, you have your first big record, you sign your first deal, you have some success in Toronto and LA, and then that tough love shifted to now you can't turn on a radio station without hearing records. So when I went back home for a show last year, it was a packed night. So Winnipeg probably taught me tough love.
Yeah.
You need to make great records before they believe. But once that fine line shifts, then it's the most support ever. And these are the kindest people in the world. But until you cross that line, you're not going to be embraced. And that just kept me motivated.
That's true, man. That's true. I feel like that goes for everything in Winnipeg. Yeah, like we were talking about restaurants, like same thing. Like sometimes the Winnipeg won't necessarily latch on right away, but once they do, they are super loyal and stuff sticks around for forever. And yeah, now that you got Winnipeg on your side, they're gonna stay with you forever.
There's
It's a
like no middle ground, whether it's
no,
sports teams or whatever. It's either
yeah,
we absolutely love you and we're fully behind you, or we don't believe just yet. And once I think I crossed that threshold last year when I had a really big record at Pop, and I felt the shift where
yeah,
I would see the streams on the back end, I would see the Shazam, I would see like the radio back end, and I'd be like, oh wow, like this is really cool. They're behind me. It took a while, but if once you get past that threshold, wow, what an amazing town.
yeah. No, I mean, it is a great town for that, especially like, yeah, well, anytime you show up, they're gonna know about you. They're gonna hear about you. And I mean, I've been hearing about you for years. Like, I remember, you were in the newspaper, weren't you, a long time ago? Didn't you have a clothing line? Like, isn't that how, like, that's how I
Yeah,
think the first thing I heard about you was like clothing. A young guy in Winnipeg was like making his own clothes.
yeah. When I was, I don't know, I was a kid. I was in high school, transferring
Yep.
collegiate graphic arts class. I picked up before I picked up music production and DJ software. I was just messing around in Photoshop. I just like design. I like trying to make things. And I remember one of my first things I designed was like a T-shirt that said "Support local hip hop," and it was just like it was always about music. The
Hmm.
clothing and the different things I did along the way were just geared towards like, hey, how can I like pay my phone bill while
Yeah.
also making music. But yeah, one of the first T-shirts I ever made was just this thing that said "Support local hip hop," and yeah, that was early in my career. Design was the first thing I did before music kind of took over. But yeah,
Yeah.
I still get like Instagram messages, people sending like T-shirts of them wearing like things from 10 years ago. I'm like, wow, I don't even have any of that stuff. People have like collections. Super cool.
Oh,
But yeah, that was like my first hobby as a kid.
yeah, well, and it took off too. Like, obviously, if I heard about it, and I didn't even know who Mr.
Yeah,
Peter Takis was before that, so like, yeah, it must have taken off pretty good.
that was just such a weird time in the world where I remember I was sending my like little design T-shirts like every artist on earth. I would just send a package if they came to town. I would give it to them if I opened for them. And like guys like J. Cole wore the shirt. There was like
Oh, that's
Mac Miller.
awesome.
There was these like really cool moments. But that was just like my first introduction. That was fun, man. I miss it. And now now we have some Takis merch that we do, and I use some of the skills from back in the day in
Nice.
Photoshop and my understanding of making merchandise. And it was cool, man. Shout out to Transcone Collegiate Graphic
All
Graphic
right.
Arts class. Whoever my teacher was there inspired me.
Yeah, and I mean, you're inspiring too. Like just hearing that, like a lot of people, like even people in Winnipeg might be hearing like, oh, he just blew up from the one song, but they don't hear about the work that you like hustling, like emailing every artist ever to get your t-shirts and stuff like that. Like that's the hustle that you got to do if you want to make it, and that's what a lot of people don't do.
Yeah, I mean, I put out probably 50 songs
Yeah,
before I had my first song that hit 1,000 plays.
there you go.
There's just nothing but L's. I always say that when people ask me for advice, I have a rule where I don't give advice because I don't understand the person's circumstance enough. But when I do give them a bit of advice, I really believe that whatever your pain threshold is, how many L's you can take is like determined is how successful you're going to be. How many times you're willing to be embarrassed. How many times you're willing to take an L where you're like, this is my new song and no one clicks it.
Hmm.
Or this is like my big idea and no one wants to be a part of it. If you can survive 50 of those, you're going to be great. If you can survive 100 of those, you're going to be killing it. And in my case, I maybe survived, I don't know, 1,000 embarrassments until I started getting a couple wins. So
Yeah,
that is certainly something that a lot of Winnipeg producers and artists reach out. And the number one thing I say is I'm like, you have to take a lot of shots.
yeah,
Take a lot of shots because you're going to keep missing, but one's going to connect.
yeah.
And I remember like one of my moments, the moment that kind of changed everything for me. It wasn't Wait For Me. It wasn't my last song. It wasn't my first deal. It was I was making a bunch of remixes that nobody wanted to listen to. And then eventually one day I made a remix. I thought it was pretty good. I emailed it to, I don't know, 200 YouTube channels,
Oh wow.
begging somebody to upload it. I couldn't get 2 plays. And I was 20, 21. And one day a small YouTube channel uploaded it. I was like, wow, I got 10,000 plays. This is cool. And then a slightly bigger one found it from there. And then it was 100,000. And to this day, that remix, I put out 20 from zero, just a kid in Winnipeg, has like 200 million streams. Like
Wow.
that changed everything for me. But it took 100 remixes where no one clicked them to get to that moment where you have a breaking point. So
Yeah.
that's a reminder to any kid that's making music: take the L's, keep
Yeah,
taking them.
you gotta hustle, man. You gotta hustle. It's
Yeah,
not easy. Like, there's a reason why there's so many people in the biz itself, right? Like, you don't there's not a million people out doing like there is, but you only hear about certain people, and that's the people that hustle. And
I
you got the game right, my friend.
I remember, like, when you put out a song, the Spotify first week really matters. Like, your label really cares about what playlist you're on, what looks you get. And one day they told me, they're like, I guess, like, some of the big playlists have like 50 slots, right?
Oh
And
wow.
obviously in radio, top 40, there's 40 slots in the top 40.
Hmm.
There's only 40. I remember they showed me some stat where it was like Spotify gets like 50,000 uploads a day or something insane. Like the
Wow.
amount of people making songs and just how saturated and competitive it actually is. It's a reminder, man. A lot of people are taking shots, but
Yeah,
it's really tough to rise to the top of that.
definitely. And yeah, no, that's not you're not wrong there. It's a tough business and a lot of people trying to get in, but you got to listen to Mr. Takis here and you put the work in. You got to take your L's. You got to be ready to take criticism as well, I'm sure, and listen to the goats like Tiesto and other people that maybe give you some criticism where you're like, no, I did like that part, but he doesn't like it. But you know what? Listen at least. And
And then occasionally you got to get lucky as
yeah,
well,
that's
because
true
that's
too.
something no one talks about.
Oh
The
yeah,
moments that I have no explanation for why a certain manager heard a song at the right time. I have no explanation for why a certain record label exec believed in an idea I
yeah.
had. So there is a lot of luck too, and no one even talks about that part, the things you can't
No,
explain.
that's
But
right.
there's a lot of that in this game.
The intangibles.
Timing,
Yeah.
it's
Or
yeah, it's
or even
chaos.
like you said, backstage at a festival. If that person wasn't there when you were backstage, then maybe that song doesn't happen, right? So
100%. There's a million of those.
yeah, that's cool. Well, man, I appreciate the time that you've taken. It was a great conversation. Like I'm sure everyone's gonna be jamming out to more of your songs. Like, do you have any kind of shows or anything lined up?
Yeah, so I just got back from Montreal, went a really exciting show. I didn't realize how much Montreal loves dance music. Such a cool culture, such a beautiful city. I have a couple shows lined up that we're going to announce on the West Coast, so maybe
Cool.
it'll be close to your station in the Vancouver area. But yeah, nothing yet that we're going to announce. But there's a lot of cool stuff happening this summer. But my main focus is making Wait For Me be the biggest record of my career and the biggest record of the summer for me. And I thank your station and every station across the country that's been playing the song, because every spin matters. And it's been a really cool experience to see just how big the record's got in Canada.
Well, it's a banger, and I love playing it, so there's no issue here at all, and it's great. Yeah, so if you have any shows coming up in our area, I'm definitely gonna let the people know. And if everyone wants to follow, you can see on the bottom here, you can just follow Peter Takis on social media at Peter Takis, or you can go check out his website, which is takismusic.com. He's got all his information there. So if any shows come up, then you'll see it there, right? They'll be posted on the website.
100%.
Awesome. Well, man, thank you so much for chilling and talking and inspiring. I'm sure so many like SoundCloud artists right now saw this and were like, okay, well, maybe 2 songs isn't enough. I need to go and make another 1,000 songs. So like that's awesome that you came and you took the time, and I appreciate it a lot.
Always, thank you, man. I appreciate it, and shout out to Winnipeg.
Yeah, man, it's always good to see a Winnipeg guy come up, and we'll talk again, I'm sure.
Cool. Talk soon. Thanks, man.
Cool, man. Thanks again.
Tell me